Hello, my name is Jessica and I'm a Grand Canyon University student, and I'm here to talk to you about phonological and phonemic awareness. Phonological awareness is a very broad skill that young children acquire where they identify and can manipulate units of oral sounds. Phonological awareness also includes identifying parts of words, syllables, alliteration, and rhyming. An example of this would be a child who notices that the word cheese and chunk both start with C. They don't quite know the sound, but they're realizing that there's a commonality between these two words. Whereas phonemic awareness is where the child is beginning to hear and identify, then manipulate individual sounds or phonemes with spoken word. The step is essential for children to learn before they're even able to read. Some examples of this would be a child who is looking at the word pull. And in pull, they notice that there are two L's in it, and they make the oo sound when together. Or a child noticing different vowels in, like the word clap, the A. Another example of phonemic awareness is a child looking at different words, and they're noticing that the endings can change, like ing and look-ing, or booked and booked ed. These are all examples of phonemic awareness. Now, as early child educators, we all strive to meeting these developmental milestones. However, these children are not going to develop all of these skills overnight, and every child develops these skills at a different rate. By teachers, though, integrating and making purposeful teaching moments where we emphasize things like phonological awareness and phonemic awareness, it's going to allow children to help develop these fundamental building blocks that they need to be able to read. Now, literacy is not just comprised of reading. It also has writing and talking all under the same umbrella. So essentially, literacy is how that child is going to communicate with the world around them. And understanding phonological and phonemic awareness is going to help develop an understanding of the structure of words. By teachers implementing and using big mouth movements, like in the letter O, so they can see the lips actually changing when you make a sound, it's going to emphasize and help provide demonstration of the different places that your tongue or your lips move to make different sounds. Another example of this would be T. T, you have to take your tongue and put it against the back of your teeth to make the sound. Now, if you don't tell a child that, they don't quite know where that sound is coming from. Another one is the L. Taking your L and it actually hits the top of your mouth, a static articulator. And by showing a child visually that's where that sound is coming from, they're going to retain it, as well as they're also going to be able to practice it now correctly. So teachers modeling sounds like this is going to allow children to have a better understanding of the relationship between phonemic awareness and speech. Now, children also develop their receptive language, or how they're able to receive language quicker than they'll develop their expressive language. However, both these abilities are depending on a number of variables, and sometimes children will need additional help because there are some developmental delays, but a lot of this can all be stemmed back to the sociocultural theory, which explains that children learn language from the world around them and the social interactions that they engage with. These three factors, such as environment, social interaction, and biology, is what the theory is comprised of. So the environment in which the child grows up in, do they interact with their families? Do they communicate? Social interaction, how they communicate. Is it a cultural thing where children are seen and not heard, kind of a thing? And biology also plays an important role, where if parents struggled with some kind of literacy in their background, or maybe they're dyslexic, something like that, sometimes that can impede on the child's development because the parent doesn't quite know how to help the child. Other factors that could affect a child's ability to develop literacy skills and the basis of phonological and phonemic awareness are also things of the print that is in the house. So if a child is not exposed to a high volume of print concepts, such as books, magazines, anything of that sort. If they're just placed in front of a TV, they're also not getting that correct exposure of learning the sounds. Parents reading a book a day to their child, just one book, 10 minutes, those children will be much more ahead than children who have not been exposed to books like that. That's why it's essential for teachers to make sure that they're making the time daily to not only read to their students, but to also have that child have an opportunity to look at the books themselves on the bookshelf. They're interested in caterpillars. You can see that's what's going on in our room. They can actually look at it themselves and reflect on some of the knowledge that they've learned in class. Something else that I have found very useful, I work in an urban setting in Syracuse, New York, and many of my students are refugees or they're from low-income families. I work in a Head Start school. So something I did was I made books in a bag. So this book in a bag is some kind of a book that has some kind of milestone, something like that, something I want the kid to take from the book. For instance, ducks in muck. It clearly is talking about phonological awareness and rhyming, but it also has a little bit of the phonemic awareness where there's a lot of sight words in this book. So it's integrating different milestones into one book that I know are effective for children. If they have repetition of it, then they're going to retain both of these very important fundamental building blocks when it comes to literacy. I also know that in this setting, a lot of my children don't have the resources such as books in their home. I go around, I collect these books. I actually attach a little homework assignment to each one. This one is about phonemic and phonological learning, and it just helps the parent also stay on board with what's going on in class, as well as different resources and different skills to help their child with. These books are always located by my classroom door. They always change out every week so that most of my children do take a book home. We went through several books this year, and I am going to use this every year. It's a great success story for my classroom. Now, children who are exposed to books like this, either in the classroom or they have the resources or not the resources, depending on how it goes, at home, it is essential for every child's development to be exposed to books and print concepts. I am going to read to you a little short chunk of a very commonly known book. I'm sure every preschool teacher knows this, The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. And I'm just going to simply model for you some of the different techniques that you can use as a teacher to help a child understand this phonological and this phonemic awareness, as well as different strategies for print concepts for teachers. In the light of the moon, a little egg laid a leaf. One Sunday morning, the warm sun came up, and pop, out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar. Can you make the word pop? Pop. Emphasizing that P sound in pop is going to help the children to realize how their mouths should move when they say that word. He started to look for some food. As the book progresses, obviously he keeps eating. He eats some apples, some pears, some plums, strawberries, and oranges. And a good way to help develop the reading comprehension portion of this book is to have the child actually integrate themselves into the story. So it's one thing if a teacher just continues to read this book. It's another thing if a teacher has fun little puppets that keep the child engaged. Maybe you can, if you're good at it, get your puppet to talk instead of you. Another way to integrate different learning styles also into this lesson plan would be, maybe puppets are too distracting. Maybe your children are kinesthetic learners and they need to really get up and moving with the book. Is you could use felt the words. So here's my pear where he ate through that pear. So a child would take that pear and bring it on up. Maybe your children need to learn through songs or something of that sort. You could turn this book into a song, or maybe they're visual learners. There's also a video of this book. So you could compare and contrast using that reading comprehension of what happens when I read versus what happened in the video. Some other things that a teacher could incorporate while reading this book is emphasizing some of those sounds or sounding a word out. Oh, what word is that? Cat, cat. And the children, based on what's on the page, so they're using other senses to do this, they're going to be able to help me, one, sound it out, but also identify what that word is. So it's really broadening horizons. Maybe there's a word in here you could stop when you had the word pop. Friends, what do you think's a word that rhymes with pop? Pop. Something of that sort. This is a great book to really incorporate both phonological and phonemic awareness to get children to understand different concepts that are attributed to both of these milestones. So we know that children need to understand phonological and phonemic awareness before they are going to be able to read, but not all children learn the same. Like I said, for this book, you could easily integrate the puppets. You could easily integrate your felt board story. Maybe your children don't do well in a large group. You could break it into a small group. I had the librarian come to my school today, and she was in here, and I read Charlie the Caterpillar last week. Charlie wasn't interesting for the kids to me, but they loved Charlie when someone else read it. Sometimes it's all on your approach on how you are trying to integrate both phonological and phonemic awareness in the classroom. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you.